meeting of the Newark Board of Education, Thursday, August 6th, regular meeting. And with that, Ms. Gutierrez, roll call, please.
Yes. Member Nguyen?
Here.
Member Jean?
Here.
Member Rodriguez?
Here.
President Martinez?
Here. Thank you. We move to item 2.1, which is the approval of the agenda. I know that I have a modification. Any other items that need to be changed or pulled?
Hi, good evening. Yes, there is a couple. I'm just double checking.
Okay, while you do that, if you need another minute, I would like to move, switch items 4 and 5. We should reconvene to open session and complete the Pledge of Allegiance and then report on closed session would be the normal structure. So I would like to change those two. Sorry, Superintendent Triplett.
Yeah, and then the other one is we'd like to respectfully request to pull 13.5.
Okay. Hold. And Ms. Saavedra, I think we discussed item 3.4, whether there was, if that was placed inadvertently and whether that needed to get pulled as well.
Yes, President Martinez, that was an oversight. We do know at this moment, we don't have any pending litigations.
So we will pull item 3.4 as well. Okay, any other change or modification? Okay, well with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the modifications of moving the place of for items 4 and 5, just basically inverting and pulling item 3.4 and item 13.5.
I move. I'm not going to repeat it, but I move.
Thank you. Member Rodriguez, may I have a second?
I second.
And Member Nguyen seconds. And may I have a vote? Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Jean?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries and the agenda is approved with the modifications that we listed. And the next item is public comment on closed session. I know I have the list somewhere. Do we have any public comment, Ms. Gutierrez?
Not in closed session.
Not on closed session. Okay, great. So with that, we recess to closed session and we will see you back here in approximately 1 hour. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see, do we have? Okay, hello, everyone. So we're just waiting for a couple more board members. Zhang is on. Give it a couple more minutes for Superintendent Triplett and Member Rodriguez. Okay, let's see. Ms. Gutierrez, can you please ping Member Rodriguez and just give him one more minute and
Yes.
get started. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. We do have quorum. So, oh, there he
He's
is.
jumping on.
He's just coming on. Okay. There he is. Okay. All right. With that, it is 7:04 and we reconvene to open session. And the item 5.1 is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if I could ask you all to please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
stands one nation, under God,
Indivisible with
liberty
liberty.
and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay, before I go ahead and report on closed session, I just wanted to remind folks that, we are live streaming on our Newark Unified YouTube channel. We are also having live public comment via Zoom. And so there was a process on the agenda that was posted with regards on how to submit for public comment. And each of an individual received an individual invite to become a panelist on the Zoom meeting. We will continue to work on our process. Of course, we'll always want to make sure it's as user-friendly as possible in a way that our current process can support. So we will continue to bring updates as we make additional improvements to that. I just wanted to, there's another statement that I wanted to read off that's in the agenda, which is as in just the expectations of the public comment As in-person meetings, the board respects the right of the public to comment on board matters. The content of messages should be civil and appropriate for a public meeting of a school district governing board. Employees who are defamed by public comment may be entitled to pursue legal action against those who engage in such speech. In compliance with the American Disabilities Act, the ADA, and upon request, individuals who require appropriate and alternative modification of the agenda or accommodations in order to observe or participate in board meetings are invited to contact Ms. Lucia Gutierrez by email. And it's listed at algutierrez@newarkunified.org by noon on the Monday preceding the scheduled board meeting. So just wanted to get a little bit of housekeeping out there. And we are excited to hear some of our public's actual voice. We've been reading your comments for you, so we look forward to hearing you live for those of you who submitted remarks. Okay, I realized as I'm about to report on closed session that historically I have been reading the items that we discussed in closed session, which is item 3.1, public employee discipline dismissal release, 3.2, conference with labor negotiator employee organizations, NTA and CSEA, item 3.3, conference with labor negotiator, NUMA, unrepresented supervisors and contracted management. Item 3.4 was pulled. Item 3.5, consideration of disciplinary action for student E1920-08, also student E1920-09, also student E1920-10. Those were the closed session items that were discussed. And the one item that I do have to report is that the board has determined that students number E1920-08, E1920-09, and E1920-10 shall not be recommended for discipline and has directed the superintendent and or his designee to end any suspension of these students. Okay, thank you. And with that, we move to item 6, which is the organization of the board. And the first item is 6.1, the appointment of the superintendent as the secretary of the board.
Can I have a question before you move?
Oh, sure, sure.
Did we send an invitation to our newly elected student board member? And do we know when that individual is going to be at maybe the next meeting, hopefully?
Yes, Member Rodriguez, he will be joining in the next meeting. So, we actually, Superintendent Triplett and I met with him earlier today. His term does officially start on July 1st. Past practice has been that they join the meeting after school, start of school. So he will be planning on joining at our next regular scheduled meeting. Thank you for asking. Okay, let's see. So the first item is, I'm trying to get back to my agenda here to make sure I've got the right verbiage. And item 6, which is the appointment of the secretary of the board. And this item I will speak to. The board is asked to accept the appointment of the superintendent, Dr. Mark Triplett, as secretary of the board. And this is consistent with our board bylaw of 9122 that identifies the superintendent as the secretary of the board. Okay. And with that, may I have a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to appoint Superintendent Triplett as the secretary of the board?
So move.
I second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion before we take a vote? Okay, thank you. Ms. Gutierrez, may you please, can you please repeat the motion?
Yes. The motion is that the board is asked to appoint the superintendent, Dr. Mark Triplett, as secretary of the board. And we have motion by member Ray Rodriguez and second by member Zhang.
Very good. And with that, I will ask for a vote. Member Nguyen,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes,
Member Zhang,
Yes.
and my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries. Welcome to your new role as Secretary of the Board, Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you. I did not prepare any statement, but I hope that's okay.
I hope you know that you're not gonna get paid any more money for this.
Okay, and the next item is setting the regular meeting dates for the board. Is this something that I needed to speak to, or is this something that you were going to speak to Superintendent Triplett?
If you could speak to that, that'd be great.
So, and I will ask Ms. Gutierrez to weigh in as well as she attempts to help organize us. I think historically, we only schedule meetings, we don't schedule the calendar out through the school year, if you will. So this has historically made some difficult for some of the schools to plan their calendar. So in this particular item, the recommendation is that we're actually setting the dates for the school year 2021. Is that correct? Did I say it correctly, Ms. Gutierrez?
That is correct.
So that is the recommended action. And with that, may I have a motion in a second to open discussion on this item?
I move.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. May I have a second?
I second it.
Thank you, Member Zhang. Any questions or comments about this particular item? We are, again, and if you look at the dates, they're all consistent with the Thursdays, every other Thursday and the schedule is attached below with every other session being the second meeting of the month, I'm sorry, being a planned study session at this point.
We used to have on Tuesdays
Mhm.
until a certain board member, when she got on, wanted to change it. Just wanted to put that in there.
A certain board member requested. and actually I did want to point that out because in the verbiage, it does say that, you know, in our governance handbook, and it actually, we haven't modified in the governance handbook. And this is one of the items that will come up later in the agenda. We are behind in making some of those modifications, but the board did take action to approve the meetings to be held on Thursdays. Okay.
We'd love accommodating new board members.
So with that, the motion on the table is to approve the dates included in the body of the agenda as the regular meetings scheduled out through the calendar year 2021. And Ms. Gutierrez, can you repeat the motion, please?
Motion by member Nguyen, second by member Zhang.
Okay. How do you vote, Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes,
Member Zhang? Is that a yes, Member Zhang? You're on mute.
Yes.
And my vote is a yes as well. So motion carries and the regular meetings dates are approved. Thank you. Okay, the next item is 6.3, which is board committees and assignments. And I'm sorry if you see me kind of go back, well, you can't see my screens, but if I'm taking a little bit of extra time, I'm having to go. I only have one monitor today. And so this particular item, this first item is just discussion, just to clarify why we're having to take action to assign a couple of, or assign members to a couple of particular committees. So there are two attachments to the agenda. One was the original board members that were approved to each of the committees. In particular, the ones that we wanted to discuss today were the city liaison committee, as well as the governance handbook, just given that, you know, Ms. Gutierrez was a representative prior to her resignation on these two critical, well, all of them are important, but we do have specific meetings and specific deliverables that we need to get through for these two particular committees. So that is the discussion. Wanted to make sure that folks had, the board had a chance to ask questions, to clarify any questions on these particular committees that we're discussing about.
I guess on the member makeup of the city liaisons committee, this is school board, the correct format is 2 regular member plus 1 alternate member, not 1 regular member plus 1 alternate member.
Correct.
So we will still need to have 2 regular member plus 1 alternate member for the liaison committee.
Correct. And Ms. Gutierrez, I know that there was some confusion about this one. So can you just kind of refresh our memory before we go on to the next item where we will take action?
Yes, definitely. So just as Member Zhang had mentioned, in the December 5th meeting, Member Gutierrez at the time, myself, and I was voted as the representative, and Member Nguyen was voted as the alternate. However, this committee does require 2 representatives, so both Member Nguyen and myself attended all the meetings. But because we voted at that time, December 5th, that way we didn't assign a 3rd alternate. So in this situation where I was no longer on the board, Member Nguyen was actually the only voted alternate, and therefore a second representative, and in this case, to cover all bases, an alternate will be need to voted.
Okay. Okay. All right. So this particular item was purely just discussion to review. Any other questions on this one before we move on to the next item that will require action? Okay.
I'm okay.
Good. So with that, we move then to item 6.4, where we will need to, the recommended action is that we appoint a board representative to the City of Newark and NUSD Liaison Committee. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion on this item?
I move.
Second.
Thank you. Member Nguyen moves, Member Zhang seconds. So, so Member Nguyen, my assumption is you're the alternate that you are interested in being a primary representative of the City Liaison Committee.
Yes.
And Member Zhang, and of course, you know, I'll let either of you and Member Rodriguez, but I believe Member Zhang, you were interested in this committee. I think you were on it at one point and kind of came off of it, right? So is that something you're interested in?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is last month, right after the Member Gutierrez resignation, I was put into that liaison meeting as because they said I was, even at that point, and probably still are the alternate member. So that tells me actually before Member Gutierrez resignation for that liaison committee, there were 2 regular member plus 1 alternate member. Because if there's just 1 regular member and 1 alternate member, then how did I suddenly become the alternate member?
Yeah, I think that's the one that had some confusion with that, and hence member Ms. Gutierrez going back and reviewing some of the meetings. So maybe there was another discussion at one point. So this hopefully will get everything in order, documented, so that there's no more confusion. So, so Member Zhang, you are interested in being on that
The
committee?
the regular member, yeah.
Yes, the regular member. Okay. So I will ask Member Rodriguez if he is interested in becoming the alternate for the city liaison committee. If not, I will take the alternate. So, but I will ask you first if you're interested.
No, if you wanted, that's fine, but the history is we've had two and an alternate, and when I exited and Member Gutierrez and then Member Bowen came on, and then so now we're moving forward, which is great. This is an excellent committee, and it's a opportunity for us to interact with the city and enrich that partnership. So I'll take the alternate, but if you want it, then I'm fine with that too.
I always want to give you first choice, Ray. So I'll have you be the alternate, or we'll if you are interested, then I absolutely acquiesce. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So so I think then after discussion, the motion will be. Let me get the verbiage here right. The recommended action again is the appointment of the board representative. So the action would be to appoint Member Nguyen and Member Zhang as the two representatives to the city liaison committee, and with Member Rodriguez being the alternate. So that would be the motion. So let me ask you, sorry, and maybe I now cause confusion here. Ms. Gutierrez, what I would have to amend the motion that given that the motion that was made for discussion was the appointment of the committee, right? So would this be an amended motion?
No, it still stays the same, because if you look at the committee board, it has the 2 slots that need to be filled. So if I'm just rephrasing your motion right now, it's the motion is to appoint Member Nguyen and Member Zhang as representatives and Member Rodriguez as the alternate. So it stays. It's fine.
Very good. Thank you. And with that, I will ask for a vote. Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries, and Member Nguyen, Member Zhang, you are the representatives, and Member Rodriguez is the alternate for the city liaison committee.
Can I ask something before you move on?
Yes, sir.
Are we the chair right now, Ms. Gutierrez? The city is, right?
That is correct. Ms. Susie Collazo is currently chair.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item, more organization here, is the other committee is the governance handbook committee. Ms. Gutierrez was the second representative beside myself, so we need one additional board member, and we did not have an alternate on this one. So we may want to as well appoint an alternate as well. Is anybody wanting to be on this committee with me?
So I think this is speaking of the board governance handbook and protocol. Might be fitting just by convention, the president and the vice president serve on the committee, and we appoint a third alternate member. And just want to clarify, this is an ad hoc committee, not bounded by the Brown Act. So we don't really have regular scheduled meetings.
Correct. Thank you for that clarification. So Member Zhang would like to be the representative. Anybody is interested in being the alternate?
I'll be the alternate.
Member Nguyen? Okay.
But we're actually gonna put Member Zhang to work on this one.
Yeah. Now, this is actually absolutely, again, all of the committees are important, but we know we've had obviously a lot of new faces on our team, and we've made some changes to just how we hold the meetings, the structure of the agenda, and again, how we engage with each other. And so there are some modifications that need to be made. In fact, in our governance handbook, we should be modifying this every year, and it's been some years. If you look at the header, I think it's none of our names are on there. Well, Member Rodriguez is, but Member Nguyen, Member Zhang, Member myself, we still have not had occasion to make the modifications. So, okay. So with that, the motion would be that we appoint Member Zhang as the second representative to the Governance Handbook Committee and a Member Nguyen as the alternate. May I have a motion and a second?
I move that we approve the motion.
I second.
Okay. Member Nguyen moves, Member Rodriguez seconds. And may I have, I will call for a vote. Member Nguyen?
Does Ms. Gutierrez have to repeat the motion?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Member. One of these days I will not call you Member Gutierrez. Ms. Gutierrez, will you please?
Yeah, so this motion is to assign the representatives for the governance handbook, and Member Martinez will continue to stay as a representative. Member Zhang will be the second representative, and Member Nguyen will be the alternate.
Very good. Thank you so much. Much more thorough. And with that, I will call for a vote. Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So motion carries. And Member Zhang is the representative, along with myself, to the governance handbook, and the alternate will be Member Nguyen. Thank you very much. Okay.
This is my doggy. This is my doggy Chase. He's a rescue dog.
My little dog just kind of ran up to me.
Love doggies.
Okay, the next item is board appointment. And I know we have a speaker here, but before we'll go in here, we'll follow the process here. So item 7.1 is the determination of the process to fill the board vacancy left when Member Gutierrez resigned on July 14th. So with this, I would entertain a motion to open discussion and approve a process for filling the vacancy, and then we will hear public comment.
I move that we open for discussion.
Second.
Thank you. And with that, believe it is Ms. Parks that submitted a request to speak.
Yes, thank you, Board. The purpose of this item is to determine the process special election or appointment will be used to fill the vacancy on the board caused by Ms. Gutierrez's departure. Clearly, a special election isn't on the table due to the timeline and the fiscal impact being listed as no on your agenda. Since it appears you will need to appoint, I would like to mention many years ago, the City Council needed to replace a City Council member. At the time, the Council chose to insert a caveat into the process, stating they only wanted people to apply who were not going to run. They felt it was important not to give anyone the incumbent status. I hope you will heed their wisdom and include that caveat in your search/appointment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. We've done quite a bit of research on this one, actually, and I actually wanted to share some comments. Let's see. I'm sorry, it's not some comments, but some information. So on this particular item, as we open, I think I'll share some information and if the board permits, and of course we'll let everyone weigh in. But there, if we look at our bylaws, if we look at Ed Code, it does stipulate that when a board member resigns, we have 60 days to fill that vacancy, to fill that vacancy either by appointment or by special election. There is some verbiage around, you know, if the seat has over 4 months that are left in the term, and then we must appoint. And there was some concern, certainly from the community and of course on our end, or I'll speak for myself, in terms of when we appoint, you know, what's the implication to the elections? We know that there are 4 seats are open on this board come November, and we want to be very, you know, as fair as possible to the process. So there were some questions about, you know, can we hold a seat open? And if we do hold the seat open, can it get rolled in to the general election without us requiring a special election? Because special election brings with it a pretty hefty price tag. So that's quite a bit of the work that we've been doing, just reading through, again, our bylaws and Ed Code. I had occasion to meet, and I did share an informational email with the board. I had occasion to meet with the Alameda County Office of Education, spoke to Superintendent Monroe, as well as her you know, policy folks. And the language itself is clear, that because there was at least 4 months left from the time of resignation of Ms. Gutierrez's resignation to the end of the term, not to when the election is held, but to the end of the term, which is the first week in December, when the new board member takes their seat. That's the official end of term, and so that takes us over the 4 months. So we would fall, by definition, the language would put us in the space of a special election. The superintendent and her staff did reach out to legal counsel, and the only way, and this is for discussion because I think we still have to make this decision, there that we may keep the seat open if the superintendent prepares a resolution that allows us to do that, with the intent that that seat, first and foremost, is up for election, which it is, the one that that Ms. Gutierrez held, and that then that particular seat would be rolled into the general election. But the only way for that to happen is if our county superintendent takes action. So that is a possibility for us to have if we as a board choose to have to leave the seat open. Again, that's kind of the backdrop. I hope that there's a lot of little details, a lot of Ed Code that's cited, but I wanted to kind of give the gist of it. And before I go ahead and weigh in on my comments, I just wanted to hear from the rest of the board members how you're. Were there any questions with regards to the information that I sent over, or was it clear?
It was pretty clear, and I'm okay with us holding the seat vacant and having the superintendent prepare the resolution for that.
Okay. Member Zhang?
Yeah, I mean, given the election filing deadline is tomorrow, and if Member Rodriguez is not filing for another term, the deadline gets extended to next Wednesday. So I don't think, I mean, even if somebody wants to apply for appointment, he wouldn't have to, I mean, in no way, shape, or form, he will be filing the paper before the deadline and had a ballot designation as appointed incumbent. So I wouldn't think anybody will be interested in applying for appointment and just leave after 5 meetings. So just leave the seat open.
Okay. Member Rodriguez?
Since since we have to appoint, because there's no way that we're gonna do it any other way. Come on, sir.
So Member Rodriguez, we actually don't have to. I think that was the email that I sent over from the county, is that we may leave it open. It does require action from our county superintendent. And they would prepare that resolution to keep the seat open and roll it in.
Okay, I read what you sent me just before the meeting, but okay, so even though it's going to be 4.5 months instead of under 4 months, the Alameda County Superintendent can waive that. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would rather stay at 4. That's my that would be my inclination. I just thought that we had no choice.
Right, and I sent it before the meeting because that's when we got it, and
Right.
I'm really grateful to Superintendent Monroe and her staff, because they are dealing with so much. But since last week we've been trying to connect and get clarity, but the language is a little fuzzy on when it's allowed to get rolled into an election or not. So that was they were doing the work of the work as well to try to
Right.
make sure that we were
Okay.
in compliance. So I too support. I think Member Zhang, to your point, there is someone out there that's willing to serve on a temporary basis. But, as we think about it from a board perspective, and as we think about our personal experiences coming on, either elected or appointed, your learning curve is so extreme in the first few meetings. And I think, as we have some important decisions to make, not sure that it would be fair to that individual to be able to come in and have that, take on some pretty significant decisions without having really the experience or the training to be able to kind of weigh in. And again, and it's our responsibility as well to make sure we keep a solid process. So I too am okay to leave the seat open until the election.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When is Superintendent Monroe going to send us formally a letter to that
Yes.
effect? Because, it's, you
Yes.
get nervous.
Absolutely. And in the email, excuse me, go down this path, which is I think we're going, what I'm hearing is they are working to prepare a resolution / order for our next regular meeting,
Got
August.
it. Thank you. Perfect.
Okay, so let me go back to the agenda verbiage here. So, here, if we look at some of the verbiage historically, given the language up until we got this this direction from the county about an hour or two before we start the meeting, we were talking about appointment or election, right? So the motion would be then to the decision that I'm hearing is that we would hold the seat open with the assumption that Superintendent Monroe will take action and provide a resolution that exempts us from calling a special meeting, and we will then hold the seat open. Okay. So may I have a motion and a second?
I move.
President.
Oh,
Sorry, point of order. There was a motion made to open the discussion, but it was just made as the title, which is determination regarding the process to be filled. So since there really is no action, I don't know if we just want to withdraw that or just go ahead and make the new motion.
So we are making the determination, right? We are making a determination. I think that's the actual action is pretty broad, right? It's the how are we going to fill it? Again, historically, coming into the meeting, the assumption was, given ed code, right, that we would have to fill because of the timeline via either an appointment or a special election. With this development, I think we would have to then be descriptive of what the actual approved process will be. Is that I believe that's what we would have to do, right? Which is the process that we will follow will be to secure the exemption from requiring a special election from the county superintendent. I think that's the closest to.
Do we actually have to make a motion on this, or do we just decide not to vote? I mean, not to proceed with the appointment, and then it goes to the superintendent, and then she'll send us the resolution. Could that be a way?
That might be the need. I mean, if you think about the language, that's probably then we in essence are allowing the clock to expire, right? So
Well, the
can
clock's
someone-
good to
can
what,
someone-
September 14th?
I'm sorry.
The 60 days is September the 13th, I think.
Yes, September, that is when the clock expires. We would hope to have the exemption resolution for our next regular meeting, right?
Right, that's perfect.
Mhm. So I think, so coming back to your question though, Member Rodriguez, and I apologize, as we try to figure out the right language, we just want to make sure we get this right, would be that we would
If I may,
withdraw the motion.
if I may, President Martinez, yes, withdraw. It's recommended that you withdraw the motion because Member Nguyen and Member Rodriguez did make a motion to, but in this case, you could just withdraw the motion and move this agenda item to the next meeting. So there will be no action taken. And in the next meeting, hopefully by then, you can have a resolution from the Alameda County.
I agree. I withdraw my second.
I withdraw my motion.
Very good. Thank you for the guidance, Ms. Gutierrez. And so this item will be tabled and brought back at the next regular meeting. I think that would be the appropriate language. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll table it to the next regular meeting. Thank you. Okay, where are we? Okay. Whew, that was trying to figure out language here. Thank you, and for everyone for your patience. The next item is item 8.1, public comment on non-agenda items. And I know we do have a couple of speakers on this one as well. Ms. Gutierrez?
Yes. First one is Ms. Parks.
Thank you. I know the district office has had many administrative changes recently. However, I'm a strong believer in adhering to the Brown Act and continue to lobby for complete transparency. Monday night, when the agenda was posted, I reached out to Board President Martinez. I let her know the agenda reflected a 5 p.m. study session. However, the agenda did not list one. Within a few hours, the correction was made. A member of the community had reached out to me after the special meeting held on July 21st, 2020. The individual mentioned the agenda was not posted at the district office doors, so they didn't know about the meeting until a day later. I took it upon myself to drive by the district office Monday night. The agenda was not posted in a location that is freely accessible to members of the public, per the Government Code Section 54954.2. And as of today, it's still not posted. In spite of many times I have brought Brown Act violations to the attention of the board, they still continue. I hope you will elevate the importance of adhering to the Brown Act with the staff. Since I do have a little bit more time, I'd also like to mention that with the activating of the YouTube and the Zoom, for those of us that try to log in at the 6 o'clock time, there is a lag time. I know with the way the meetings were held before, you would have a setup screen that would activate like 5 minutes before the meeting, because when we're trying to log in, what we were getting was the July 9th town hall meeting playing. We could not see that the meeting for this evening is not posted yet. And by the time it does post for us to gain access, you're already a little bit, a couple minutes into the meeting. So just wanted to bring that to your attention, working through all of the technology glitches, that perhaps the setup a few minutes before, allowing everybody to log in and be waiting in a waiting room or whatever, so that when you all come on, we're there with you and we can see the beginning of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. And I believe
There
we
is
have
a
one-
second.
Okay, go
There's a
ahead.
second one. And this is Miss Julie Radcliffe.
Good evening.
Hello. Hi, Ms. Radcliffe.
Hi. Dear President Martinez and Board of Trustees, I have been disappointed the last 10 months over the lack of respect and dismissal of classified management. These virtual meetings and remote working conditions have allowed others to completely control the narrative, even if the facts were inaccurate. Actions and words have consequences to others. So when you're up on the dais, even if it's virtual, just because somebody wants you to do something on their behalf doesn't always mean it's the right thing to do or that it has to be done. Stop and think and ask yourself these questions. Why are we being asked to do something that has never been done before in the history of the district? What is the spirit behind the request? And what do you think is going to be gained by what they are asking you to do? Because I can tell you what was lost by what you were asked to do. So the next time somebody asks you to do something, can you think, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? But most of all, what are the ramifications to others by the actions that are being done? For 1 second, put yourself in their shoes. Just 1 second. You don't have to walk an entire mile. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Radcliffe. Okay, and I believe that was only the second speaker. Okay, and we have only 2. Very good. And with that, we move to item 9, which is the superintendent report.
Thank you, President Martinez. I'm going to share my screen for the superintendent report. If you bear with me for one moment. There we go. So good evening, board members, staff, public. Mark Triplett, Superintendent of Newark Unified. So I just wanted to share out the recent planning for our school fall reopening. And so I had a few slides I wanted to share with you and some information to share as well. First, I just wanted to just remind everybody of what we have planned for this fall and the situation that we're in with the global pandemic. We are going to be starting the school year in distance learning. And then as conditions change and as it is safe to do so based on California state and county guidelines, then we will shift to a phase 2 hybrid model. Well, I'm really excited tonight to announce some news, and that is today we came to an agreement with our Newark Teachers Association and reached an MOU around starting the school year on the 13th. So I did want to just take a moment to appreciate NTA, our labor partners, as well as the team of district folks who spent a lot of time negotiating this agreement, and I feel really good, and I hope that NTA does as well, that this is an agreement that's going to be really, really good for students and families and staff alike. So just congratulating everybody for all of that hard work. So I wanted to give some details and just name that some of the details we have not been able to give out because they were related to the negotiations. And so I'm glad and relieved that we can share more information now, and as well that we plan on continuing to share additional information and details about how distance learning will look like next week, and also all of the different aspects of the start of school. So firstly, just wanted to name this really important point. The board did vote to approve the purchase of additional Chromebooks I believe it was last session, and we really appreciated that. Our goal continues to be that every student has access to online distance learning across all grade levels. And so starting actually in some cases starting tomorrow and then throughout next week, we will be distributing Chromebooks and hotspots to families and students that need one. I wanted to just articulate a couple things that we've been doing. One is that a family survey was sent out last night to try to get a sense from all of our families, what is the need, given that conditions are constantly changing and family situations may be changing. We want to make sure that we are hearing from everybody what is their need in terms of access. And so far we've received, I believe we're up to 1,400 responses from the survey, which is really terrific. Surveys in both English and Spanish. And so I just want to ask the public and ask families, if you haven't filled out the survey yet, please do. It helps to tell us what are the Chromebook and hotspot needs that we can support with. Distribution will be happening of Chromebooks and hotspots where needed through August 10th through the 15th. And I'll speak a little bit more about that later. And then in addition, our IT team has been working feverishly and incredibly hard in refurbishing our equipment, ordering additional equipment, and then also cataloging and tracking equipment. As you all know, in the spring when we distributed Chromebooks, we had not anticipated the need to do that, and so we did not really have a complete cataloging and tracking system because, of course, the idea was always that the Chromebooks would be for the classroom and be in class. So we are working really hard to create that sort of cataloging system. And then, of course, IT is going to continue to provide ongoing tech support for the use of Chromebooks from both staff and families and students throughout the year. I wanted to articulate, then this is really for families, our commitment in NUSD about what we're really seeking to do this fall in distance learning. Number one, is we are committed to a weekly communication between teachers, students, and parents. And that's every Monday. Families should expect a communication around the work for the week, the plan for the week for their child. Two is I'm really excited by the fact that this agreement, the MOU, is resulting in increased instructional time and more instructional time than we saw in the spring, both whole class and small group. We're also really committing to challenging, rigorous assignments equivalent to the in-person learning. And unlike in the spring, where most districts were not able to provide grades and really wanted to be sensitive to the fact that students would be challenged to be engaging in that distance learning. At this point, we're in a position where we really can go back to grades, even though we're distance learning, and accountability and support for all students, which includes consistent teacher feedback for students and parents around the progress of their child. And that's another thing we heard from families in the spring was really wanting to get more of a sense of how their children were doing in their progress. So we're really committed to that. And then lastly, we're really committed to professional development and support for our incredible teachers. This distance learning obviously is new for everyone, even though we started in the spring. There's so much to learn. It's such a different world. And so we're really deeply committed to continuing to learn from each other and support teachers to learn from each other and from other facilitators around how to be engaging in distance learning. I wanted to share with you what next week has in store for us. So as you all know, we're starting our first day on August 13th. That's Thursday. And so we'll have 2 days of school next week. But before that, we have 3 days of preparation and professional development. Teachers are returning, other staff are returning or have already returned. So Monday, we're going to do a full district professional learning day where we'll actually be working with an organization called EdTech and providing some really amazing trainings and workshops that have gotten a lot of positive feedback in the past around how to be teaching in a distance learning setting. Tuesday will be school-based professional learning, and then the principal, administration, teacher leaders will engage in that professional learning space. And then Wednesday is opportunity for teachers and staff to be really preparing and getting ready for the first day of school. As you can see on here, that all throughout the week, we'll have Chromebook distribution. It really, I encourage families to communicate directly with their school to learn the specific hours when they could come into either to receive a Chromebook or turn one in and get a different one if the Chromebook they have is not working properly. And then I broke down 3 different sections to describe a little bit more about what's happening next week. So for the high school, high schoolers and high school families should expect to receive their class schedules on Monday. And then Thursday and Friday, there's going to be an opportunity for those students and families to come to the school and actually pick up some more materials and resources for their classes. Of course, we're being very strict about social distancing and following all appropriate safety guidelines, but there will be an opportunity for families to come to the school in an organized way, and they'll receive more information about that to pick up their resources. For the junior high, they should expect to receive their class schedules on Tuesday, and then likewise, they're going to be able to come on Thursday and Friday to pick up more materials and supplies. And then lastly, for our elementary schools, they will receive their, families will receive their teacher assignments on Monday. So teachers are going to be receiving this information at different times, but I really wanted to share out what families can expect in terms of receiving that information. Okay, so the other thing, I think I jumped ahead a little bit. I know families have also been really eager to understand what is a day and a week going to look like in this distance learning setting. And so I wanted to share both elementary, junior high, and high school, what a day will look like. And I'll go over this pretty quickly, but I just wanted to make sure that there was an opportunity for families to understand this. This is a student schedule. So different than a teacher schedule. This is the schedule that students will have. And this in particular is elementary school. And students and families can expect that regardless of the elementary school they're at, that this will be the schedule. So Monday is going to be unique. As you can see on the left side, this is the morning time of Monday. And there'll be, families can expect to receive a weekly schedule from their teachers by 8:30 on Monday. So then they're preparing for the week. And then there'll be a morning meeting, whole class, on Monday morning from 9:30 to 10:10. And then after that, there'll be, this is the day of the week where teachers are actually going to be doing, they're going to have a minimum day so that they can do some more comprehensive professional learning, district or staff or school meetings, virtually, of course, and then also a site or a cross-district collaboration. The rest of the week, as you can see, follows a different pattern, same times, but different pattern. And that is Tuesday through Friday, students will be able to, will have a whole class live online instruction in the morning. They'll get a break. And then they'll have 4 different instructional blocks that you can see there on the schedule. And then lastly, there'll be an opportunity in the afternoons for more whole class live online instruction. So that's the elementary schedule. I'm not going to go over all of this junior high schedule or high school schedule, but just wanted to touch on some of the main ideas. So you can see that Monday for the junior high is unique as well. And they will have each of their periods will be very brief. They will also receive the weekly schedule right in the morning for the entire week, which includes what assignments they'll be responsible for. And then after 1:05, that's when there'll be an opportunity for students to do some asynchronous learning. So that might be videos that they work on, or they might be working on work that was assigned during one of their periods. And then in the late afternoon, that's when teachers will actually be doing professional development every Monday. And then you can see for the remainder of the week, the students should expect to have alternating days for their 6 periods. So Tuesday will be periods 1, 3, and 4. Wednesday will be periods 2, 4, and 6, and then it'll return to that on Thursday and Friday. The afternoon is asynchronous work time, similar to what I described before, where there's opportunities for intervention support. Teachers will hold office hours and other individual meetings with students or families. And then lastly, the high school, very similar to the junior high, where Monday is unique and has all 6 periods plus the A period for students who have A period. And then you'll see that from 8:30 to 3:30, students will be engaged first in their period classes, and then in the afternoon doing asynchronous work, similar to what I described before. So that is, here, let me stop sharing here. That is the information that we have to share tonight. We intend to share out more information about distance learning and a full plan within the next couple days. And that plan has been developed with NTA. And now we really want to make sure, now that we have come to an agreement, we want to make sure that we have a family-friendly plan too, that we can communicate out, that gives more specifics and details of distance learning. And that's my report. Are there any questions or comments that I can answer?
No, I just wanted to, I'll say that I just want to thank you. I know that, I know you mentioned that, been working closely with the teachers, and, I being a parent as well as a board member, we're anxiously awaiting some of the information that you just shared. So, I think to our parent groups out there and teachers who had a lot of anxiety out there, more to come, but just, know that we have to respect the process, and very, very grateful to the entire team of teachers and leaders, teacher leaders, and of course, district staff for putting all this work in and really thinking and putting our kids at the center and coming up with what we hope is that best picture, right? So thank you so much, Superintendent Triplett and team, and teachers for getting to this point so that we can get that clarity. So thank you very much.
Question on Superintendent.
Mm-hmm.
Why the difference between the elementary and secondary?
Yeah, so there is actually a lot of consistency. And we were really thoughtful and intentional about that. And all of these, I want to say, were not just a part of negotiation, but we've had committees even before negotiation officially started, committees of teachers and other leaders working on these. And so we really wanted to make sure that we did provide as much consistency across grade levels as possible. But there are some things that are developmentally more appropriate for certain grade levels, certain ages. And that's why you do see that the elementary has some different look to it. Some of it is around just developmentally what's appropriate for students at that age. And so, yeah, there are some modifications.
And then my next question is, with the partnership we have with NTA, with the teachers, was there a lot of contribution from the teachers in putting this together, or was it just something that we did?
There really was. So Mr. Dalowich has been facilitating committees throughout the summer at every different grade level, and it's really involved teachers at the different grade levels as well as leaders. So we definitely didn't want to make any sort of decisions unilaterally. And I think you've heard me say publicly before, board, in this setting, that we really didn't want to launch into any decisions in a unilateral way. This has to be collaborative, and collaboration and negotiation can often be challenging and hard on everybody, but we really wanted to make sure that we did that, honoring the voice of those closest to the kids, closest to the classroom, and that's our teachers. And
Thank you for doing that. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Yes, thank you for a collaborative effort on everyone's part. It is much appreciated, and we look forward to seeing the family-friendly plan and also the extended plan that staff has come up with. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Superintendent Triplett. Does that conclude your report? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. With that, we move to item 10, which is employee organizations. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have any comments from our employee organizations submitted? Sorry, you're on mute.
I will have to apologize for this one. I did not reach out. Like I said, I apologize just in getting used to the menu role. I did not reach out to ask for comments from any of the organizations.
Okay. So we do apologize for that to our employee organizations. Want to make sure, and we'll reach out certainly after today's meeting, make sure we have clarity as to the process so that folks know how to do that. So do apologize for that. Okay, thank you. All right, with that, we move to item 11, which is public hearings. The first one is item 11.1, public hearing on interfund borrowing. And this one is, sorry, it's a public hearing, so I must open a public hearing before we start any discussion. So opening a public hearing for item 11.1. And with that, I will ask Ms. Dela Cruz before I believe we do have ones. Actually, no, we don't.
Not for this one, the next one.
Okay. All right, so Ms. Dela Cruz, if you just want to just give a quick description. I know that we'll have another item coming up later in the agenda that requires action, but if you just want to give a quick description of this one, or this for the public hearing purpose.
Yes, thank you, President Martinez. So normally we would not be holding a public hearing for interfund borrowing, but because the state has allowed some flexibility in our ability to borrow in between funds in excess of 75%, the state has increased it to 85%. For this year and next year, we are required to hold a public hearing for that reason. So this allows us to borrow cash from our other funds because there will be deferrals in the way the state will be giving us our funding for this year and next year.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that description. We did not receive any request to speak on this particular item. And again, to the board, we do have this item coming up for action. You're welcome to, if there's any questions now, or we can go ahead and close this public hearing and have additional discussion when we get to action. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, so with that, we close the public hearing on interfund borrowing. And we move to item 11.2, which is I open the public hearing on developer fee increase. And I know we do have a request to speak on this one from Ms. Julie Radcliffe.
Good evening. Dear President Martinez and Board of Trustees, since we are currently in a state of a national pandemic and many businesses are being forced to close their doors permanently, Has anyone stopped to think that raising these fees would discourage people from wanting to come to Newark? How does raising fees during a national crisis make sense to anyone? People are losing jobs, businesses are closing. An example would be, even though they are in Fremont, after more than 60 years, Cloverleaf Bowl was forced to close their doors. Does a proposition like this make sense at this time? I'm just afraid it will drive people away. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rapoport. Ms. Dela Cruz, again, this particular item will have an item further down in the agenda that will require action. Is there just a quick description from a public hearing perspective that you'd like to give us?
Yes, so every 2 years, the state increases the developer fees to align with inflation and facilities cost. And we are required to have a public hearing whenever we increase our developer fees. So this fee is applied to any new development, which could include housing development or even residences that have additions after a certain amount of square footage. So this is required as part of our increase.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and with that, unless there's any questions or comments before from the board, I will go ahead and close the public hearing on developer fees. Okay, again, this item will come up further in the agenda for action. Thank you very much, Ms. Dela Cruz. And the next item is item 12, old business, 12.1 flooring project at Newark Memorial High. The recommended, let's see, sorry. The recommended action is to approval to proceed with the award of California Multiple Award Schedule, CMAS, agreement with JB Jordan and Associates for the Newark Memorial High School flooring project not to exceed $466,145 as presented. That is the recommended action. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I move.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Have a second? I will give a second. Okay. So let's see, we do not have a speaker on this particular item. So will I have you, Ms. Dela Cruz, speak to this, or Superintendent Triplett?
I can start, President Martinez, and then Ms. Dela Cruz, please chime in. I will say in one of my first days here in Newark Unified, I had the opportunity to go to the high school, and it just happened to be the day when the facilities department and some of the people responsible for this flooring proposal were there. So I did get to, I got the full pitch around this flooring, and I also got to see where there's a need for flooring. And two things. One is there's, in my opinion, clearly a need for this, and we've actually heard from even student leadership that this is a priority. And then two, I will say, is that the technology around the new kind of flooring that they now have has changed a lot since when I was a principal. And as I was quite impressed, and I actually think it's if the board chooses to do so, I think it can provide a really nice change, attractive, nice change to the facility. Ms. Dela Cruz, did you want to add anything?
Oh, I'm already unmuted, sorry. Yes, I just want to just refer back to when this first came to the board and there was no action taken. And since then, we did reprioritize and the board approved the priority projects for the bond. So I just want to remind the board that this is aligned with the bond projects that was approved back in February. I did also invite our project manager in case you have any further questions, any detailed questions in particular about this project. President Martinez, I think you're muted.
Yeah, so it was so thank you for that, Ms. De La Cruz, and you did provide quite a few attachments for our review, so appreciate that. But I will open it up to the rest, to the board members before I.
President Martinez? Just wanted to point, like Ms. De La Cruz said, that the project manager is on waiting. So if you requested, we could transfer him.
Sure, let's go ahead and make him active in case there's some questions that come up from the board. Absolutely.
Okay. So Ms. David, if you could make Ralph active, please.
Hi there, Mr. Caputo.
Good evening, President Martinez, trustees, Dr. Triplett.
Yep, and I was just opening up this item for discussion from the board. So just curious if any of the board members have any questions either for Ms. De La Cruz or Mr. Caputo regarding the items attached.
I'd just like to thank everyone. This is way overdue, and it's nice when we can finally take action on something that we've been talking about for a long time.
Agree. Any other questions or comments? I wanted to also thank everyone for I think just very thorough work in terms of the how you're thinking about the prioritization of the areas to go after. One of the critical areas or critical documents, I'm sorry, that you attached was the Measure G set of priorities. Because I wanted to make sure we have that continuity, right? This isn't falling out from left field. This is something we've been discussing, to Member Rodriguez's point, probably way before many of us were on the board. So it's been kind of tabled for a while, so great to see the level of work here to give us a real sense of what this is going to look like and the timing of it. So just also wanted to thank you, and I too believe it's way overdue. Any questions?
No, I'm also in agreement with that, with both your statements.
Okay. All right, so I think Mr. Caputo is off the hook. So if there's no further discussion, I will ask Ms. Gutierrez to repeat the motion on the table, please.
The motion is to, okay. The motion is for the flooring project at the Newark Memorial High School. Motion made by Member Nguyen and second by President Martinez.
Okay. Thank you. And with that, I will ask for a vote. Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries, and we approve. We accept staff recommendation and approve the contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, section 13, new business, item 13.1, which is the CSBA Delegate Assembly runoff elections. We do need to take action on this item. It does require us to select up to 3 delegate candidates. We do have a sample of the ballot that was attached to the agenda. And we do have only 2 names on the list. Okay. And that is Mia Lisa Bonta from Alameda and
Ms.
Ann
White.
White and Ann White from Livermore. Sorry, that's my bad. So the motion would be to identify up to 3 delegate candidates. So in this case, in the spirit of not making a couple of different motions, I would recommend that that the motion be to select the 2 candidates, the 2 delegates included in the ballot.
So I move that we vote for both candidates in the ballot.
Thank you. I have a second.
I second. I have a question.
Sure, sir.
They're asking for 3. So, you know, prior board members have, you know, we've always had at least one that, you know, was very involved in it. So because we have the 3 of you as newer board members, our question is, does anyone of you would like to put their name on there?
Interesting.
Just so, you know, they recognize who we are at some point. Not that you'll be voted in, you know, because but who
So
knows? Hey,
we'll write our name in there. We could do a write-in. Actually,
yeah, you can.
that's great guidance. I wasn't aware of that.
I'm looking at the instructions, just based on the ballot. I don't see any instructions regarding the write-in, but so I would just go on your guidance, President Martinez, or the guidance of our historian, Member Rodriguez.
Yes, I would defer to Member Rodriguez. Frankly, I don't know what the rule is about a write-in on a runoff ballot. So
My understanding is that you can write somebody in because they are asking for 3. So, but we have a big election coming up in November. Maybe we should wait and do this next year. But I would like one of you, if you end up staying on the board, to it's a good experience, and to be on the CSBA
right.
their
yeah
board.
I think it's been so appreciate the input. I think you know, you're right. I think maybe, you know, once the dust settles, if you will, after the election, I think it would be great for Newark. I know a previous board member, I think, was very actively involved, and you know, will be seasoned after 2 years on the board. Maybe it's time we get into this on CSBA. So
yeah, I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay, so the motion on the table is to approve the 2 names on the current ballot without a write-in, correct? Okay, very good. All right, and with that, I will ask for a vote. Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So we, the motion carries. Thank you. Okay. So the next several items are around some board policies and administrative regulations. Item 13.2, administrative regulation on the 1312.4 Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures. This is the first reading. And the staff recommends that the Board of Education approve as presented or move to bring back for a second reading with recommended revisions. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I move to open discussion.
I second.
Thank you, Member Nguyen, Member Zhang. And Ms. Saavedra, would you like to comment on this one before?
Yes, as we are getting to a new year, the Williams Uniform Complaint Procedures have been revised. So there is recommendation in the language that updates the procedures for how to file, I guess, a Williams complaint. So this recommendation is we have reviewed the language, and we're bringing it up to the board tonight for approval, for approval or first reading or approval if there are no changes.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? I will ask a question. Ms. Saavedra, I know that many of these are here for first reading, and we do have the option to bring back. Is this one in particular time sensitive, and that's something we should consider?
Yes, as I shared with the board the last time, we are in the midst of an audit through FPM, a federal programs audit. And a lot of these were identified as areas that needed to be updated and therefore are of sensitive matter.
Okay, very good. Okay. I personally don't have, I know I'll ask the rest of the board if they had any questions or any concerns with the material in the attached in the attached document to the administrative regulation. Any questions? Any issues that were identified?
I don't have any.
Okay. So again, the motion is to approve as presented or move or bring back for a second reading. If there are no questions, would we be able to go ahead and I'll seek your guidance here, Ms. Gutierrez. Would we amend the motion then to go ahead and approve after first reading? And
Yes, that is correct. So your motion would just be to approve the regulation 1312.4 as is.
As
it's presented.
As presented. Okay, so that would be member Nguyen would have to. She made the motion. She would have to amend the motion.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to amend the motion 13.2 administrative regulation 1312.4 Williams Uniform Complaint Procedure. I would like to move that we approve as is.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a second? Member Zhang seconds. Very good. And I'll ask for a vote. Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries and we approve staff recommendation on 13.2. Thank you. The next item is 13.3, Board Policy 4030, non-discrimination in employment. Again, staff recommends that we approve as presented or move back for a second reading. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I move that we approve 13.3, Board Policy 4030, non-discrimination in employment, first reading as is.
Second.
Very good. Any questions or comment from the board on this particular item? Okay, nor do I. So the Ms. Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion?
Yes, this motion was made by member Nguyen, which staff recommends the Board of Education approve as presented the Board Policy 4030.
Yes, thank you. And who was the second on that one? I'm sorry.
Second by member Rodriguez.
Member Rodriguez. Okay, very good. Thank you. And with that, I will ask for a vote, please. Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
And my vote is a yes as well. So staff recommendation, the motion passes and we accept staff recommendation to approve the policy as presented. Okay, item 13.4, Administrative Regulation 4032, reasonable accommodation. Staff recommends the Board of Education approve as presented or move to bring back for a second reading with recommended revisions. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I move to approve 13.3 to approve staff recommendation on, oh, sorry, 13.4, right? We're on 13.4.
13.4.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
I move that we approve 13.4 Administrative Regulation 4032 reasonable accommodation as is.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions or comments, any revisions? Okay. Neither do I. And so with that, Ms. Gutierrez, the motion.
Motion is made by member Nguyen to approve Administrative Regulation 4032, reasonable accommodation as is. And second by member Rodriguez.
Okay, very good. Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
My vote is a yes as well, so the motion carries. Thank you. All right, item 13.5 was pulled, so we move to item 13.6. Board Policy 4113.5, working remotely, first reading. Sorry, this is the staff recommends the board approve. There's quite a bit of these. I'm losing my place here. Staff recommends the board approve as presented or move to bring back for a second reading. And this again is the work 4113.5, working remotely. I have a motion in a second.
I move that we bring board policy 4113.5 working remotely back for a second reading with revision.
Okay. May I have a second?
A second.
Okay. Very good. And we'll open it for discussion. Are there some particular edits or revisions that are required?
Yes, I sent the superintendent earlier an email regarding one of the working remotely items when it comes to district providing internet access for employees.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it's on the second page. The district shall provide to employees who work remotely or supplies materials, apparatus, and equipment reasonably necessary to perform their jobs, including as necessary a technology device and internet access.
Mhm.
So my question is this: what does this providing internet access really mean?
In some cases, as we have experienced due to the to COVID-19, there have been some employees working remotely who didn't have access to internet at home. So as you remember, the board approved to purchase hotspots during the spring. So for those members who are in need of the service, we have provided hotspots. It's not a usual ask, but we meet with the members and we accommodate what's needed so in order for them to complete their work remotely.
Okay.
I mean, it does say including as necessary, but I would rather see those hotspots go to students who are not able to use them. Teachers are getting a salary. They are able to, sign up for a hotspot through Verizon, or, we can also give them, or we can sign up for one for them, but I don't know, you guys would have to work out the details in terms of how they can reimburse the district back for that.
And this doesn't just necessarily include teachers. We also have classified employees who have worked remotely or are working remotely.
I understand that, but they do get a salary, and there are students who are not able to. There are families out there who are not able to provide internet access for themselves. I would like to see that those internet access capabilities go to the students and their families as a priority over our teachers who are able to make those accommodations, or to our CSEA members or classified members, they are getting a salary from the district, so therefore they are able to provide internet access for themselves. If they don't know how to purchase a hotspot, I'm more than happy to help guide them through that process.
So, and another thing I want to raise on this remote policy is that I don't think we talk about the possibility that somebody working remotely out of California and the tax implication on the district. Because today, pretty much all the private sector that if you work remotely, there's this one caveat that everybody needs to respect is you don't move out of the state line. Because moving out of the state line will have huge tax implication on both the employer and employees. I don't know whether we're ready to deal with this, or we don't think there's anybody that will work out of state.
And not only that, the district is providing them the ability to work in their classrooms, which has internet access. So I am strongly in agreement with Member Zhang that it needs to be modified, the language there. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is wide open. Ms. Saavedra, I know it's broader population. I think that, and I'm not sure, I know that this is recommended language from CSBA. So I'd be curious to see if you know, if there is a hardship, you know, sort of language that can be added. But to Member Wynn's point, you know, especially during distance learning, you know, kids aren't in, our students aren't in class. So, you know, we do have plenty of safe, what could be safe space for folks to work within our facilities, and already we're already paying for this. So I think maybe it's the interpretation of providing the internet access doesn't necessarily mean we are going to give a hotspot. And I think what I'm hearing that the board, the direction is, let's not incur additional costs. You know, that we have facilities where folks can come and work. Because really the prioritization of any additional money spent should really come to our students and their families. So if we can find some verbiage that where we clarify that, we do know, we also have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, there are exceptions, and that there will be a time where you know, there is an employee for whatever reason that has some hardships, and they can't come to campus, so we can't make it so closed that we can't, you know, facilitate if that is the course of their duties. So maybe just kind of thinking through that, doing a little bit of research and figuring out how we can do that. Yeah. Sure.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, just another point as on, like maybe we should probably consult with whatever the CSBA or the county, that when it comes to crossing state line, working remotely.
Well, I would expect we would be aware of anybody crossing state line, because again, we have to be available for, thank you for the consideration, but I would hope that that's not an issue.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I don't believe we have any cases, but you know, you'll be surprised that once we start the research, and we may be if we get there. But thank you for bringing that up. And I think President Martinez, I think I just wanted to make sure that I know for a fact that that our students are our first priority. So any hotspots that were purchased were with the intention to service the students first. So our students are our first, at our most important.
Yeah, but again, we do have to be aware again that we do, if we are requiring our folks to work distance, that we need to make sure we're able to support them if some of them are encountering some difficult times as well. So I just want to make sure that we are not so rigid in our definition, perhaps. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, board members. So we'll take it back and rework it and also get a little counsel on it, and then bring it back to you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, so this item will be brought back for a second reading. Thank you. Thank you very much for the discussion.
So should we vote on
So
that?
we have to vote. Sorry.
A point of order.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Trying to move on. So
Yeah, I think we need to bring it back.
Ms. Gutierrez, thanks for keeping me honest, everyone. Can you please repeat the motion?
Yes. The motion is that 13.6 is to bring back board policy 4113.5, working remotely, for a second reading. Motion made by Member Zhang, second by Member Nguyen.
Thank you. I will ask for a vote. Member Zhang, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So we will bring this back for a second reading at our next meeting. Thank you. And thank you, staff. Item 13.7, which is staff recommends that we approve, approve board policy 4119.11, sexual harassment, either as presented or moved to bring back to a second reading with any recommended revisions. May I have a motion and a second on this item for discussion, to open discussion?
I so move.
Okay.
Point of order. Sorry. Go ahead, Member Martinez.
It says, so Member Rodriguez, there's the two options is to approve as presented or to move back to bring back for a second reading. Are you moving to approve as presented?
Yes.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second.
Okay. On this particular board policy on sexual harassment, are any questions or proposed revisions from the board? Okay. I do not have any questions nor recommended revisions. So with that, Ms. Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion on the table, please?
Yes, the motion is to approve board policy 4119.11, sexual harassment. And it's made by Member Rodriguez and second by Member Nguyen.
Thank you. And Member Zhang, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
My vote is yes as well. So the motion passes and we accept the board policy 4119.11, sexual harassment as is. Thank you. Next item is 13.8, board policy 5131.2, bullying. The staff recommends that the board accept and approve as presented or bring back for a second reading with any recommended revisions. May I have a motion and a second to open for discussion?
Make the motion.
So the motion would be to accept as is or to bring back.
Accept as is.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Member, who was in there first? Member Nguyen? Seconds? Okay. Any questions or?
Member President Martinez, there is a speaker on this item.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay.
Ms. Radcliffe?
Yes. Sorry about that, Ms. Radcliffe. Go ahead, please.
I don't have anything to say anymore, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I will open it up for any questions or comments from the board members regarding any potential revisions or changes. Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion on the table?
Motion is to approve Board Policy 5131.2 bullying as is, made by Member Rodriguez, second by Member Nguyen.
Thank you very much. Member Zhang, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So motion carries and board approves Board Policy 5131.2 as presented. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13.9, resolution number 2020.21-001, developer fee increase. The staff recommends the adoption of such resolution, approving an increase to developer fees on new residential and commercial industrial construction. May I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
Move that we approve.
Thank you. May I have a second?
I second it.
Member Zhang seconds, and we do have a speaker on this one, correct? Okay, thank you.
Is that Ms.
and-
Parks?
Yeah, Ms. Parks, go ahead.
Good evening. Let me start off by saying I believe the district should get every penny they're entitled to. However, can you honestly say Newark Unified is entitled to an increase in developers' fees when the district's capacity hasn't been impacted by students moving into the new developments? Since the district started collecting these fees, enrollment has dropped from about 6,200 students to around 5,600. Why does this document repetitively say the district will not be able to adequately house and serve the additional student generated by these new developments when the district continues to see a decrease in student population? Let's not forget that you have a board-appointed school consolidation committee that will be looking into recommending the closure of 1 or 2 schools to right-size the district. How will these additional students projected from the new development impact, or should I say increase, the need for the district to create updated, adequate, appropriate classroom space and academic support facilities? The justification study states the district capacity is 9,461, and their 5-year enrollment projections are only 6,441. In the demographic study produced by the same company, the 5-year projection shows enrollment numbers of 5,789. I think this is a good time to mention this money is not to be used for regular maintenance, routine repairs, certain inspections, nor deferred maintenance as described in Education Code 17582. As stated in the annual report you approved in December, the fee is collected to finance the construction or reconstruction of school facilities necessary to reduce overcrowding caused by the development on which the fees were levied. Even though it is a small increase, let me ask you, do you believe the students generated from the new developments have impacted the district as described in the resolution and that supports the increase? Thank you.
Sorry, thank you, Ms. Parks. Ms. Superintendent Triplett, will this be yourself or Ms. Dela Cruz speaking on this item?
I think Ms. Dela Cruz, you could start if you'd like, and then I'm happy to chime in if necessary.
Thank you, Superintendent President Martinez. I did invite our consultant as well to be available and to speak on this item. And this resolution is to approve an increase in our developer fee, which is what we normally do every 2 years, and to review or provide a justification for it. So if anybody has any questions, or if you would like Mr. Reynolds to speak further on any item related to this, he is available for that.
Very good. I do have something, but I'll ask my fellow board members first. Does anybody have any questions for staff or Mr. Reynolds? Okay, the only thing, you know, as I hear some of the public comment, and as I was reading, obviously when you talk about developer fees, typically it's just discussed in the context of growth, right? And making sure we can accommodate growth being brought on by but new developments and whatnot. And maybe it's Mr. Reynolds. One of the areas that kind of I think stuck for me is page 10 in the report, which is there is something around reconstruction and modernization, because exactly, as we've had a demographic study, which I think it serves its purpose for short-term planning. But as we really think about the definition of when buildings become eligible, if you will, for true reconstruction, is I think over 20 years, and ours are way past that. So maybe if you could speak a little bit about this section around reconstruction and modernization, and why this is a justifiable reason in use of a developer fees.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. And you said it very eloquently, describing the use of developer fees. And there are two levels of fees, a level 1 fee and a level 2 fee. And you are collecting what's referred to as the level 1 fee, which, in addition to providing accommodations for students that are causing growth, they are also allowed to be used for what we call reconstruction or modernization, or based on the attorney's interpretations, to maintain the existing level of service is the quote that they use a lot. And so, not to be confused with deferred maintenance and routine maintenance, but modernization type projects, right, include updating the facilities basically every 20, 25 years. And our analysis of the age of your facilities shows that they are eligible for some updates and upgrades so that they will continue to be of service. Now, another way of looking at it is, if there was not development in the district, you would be declining at a higher rate in enrollment terms. And therefore, if you're looking at closing schools, maybe you could close even more schools. But since we need to keep the schools open to house those students, and keep even more schools open to accommodate students that you do receive from development, those schools will need to be upgraded, and so that you can maintain your current level of service for those students. So that, again, and it's not, even though it is technically an increase in fees, it is a adjustment just for inflation. So over the last 2 years, the inflation's been about 7.6%. And so that is the amount of increase in these fees. And then in terms of the timing, those increases were approved by the State Allocation Board in January. And so here the district is approving, is up to the district to approve these fees. Here we are in August, and the regulations state that the new fee cannot go into effect for 60 days. So these fees will not go into effect until October, assuming it is approved. And again, if there was a concern over the timing, you could extend that time to implement the fees at a later point instead of the 60 days if you felt the timing was bad because of the pandemic. Again, since the original approval was done by the state back in January, I think you've been very generous by finally bringing this to the board here in August. So with that, I'd be available to answer any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Any additional questions from other board members?
I have something. We, from time to time, we've investigated into going from one level to the other, and we've never been able to do that. So with the age of our buildings and I realize projected growth is very little, and we've had so many different studies, and each one of them seems to be different. But I really think that we need to approve this and get what we can, so that we have the money to do things.
Thank you, Member Rodriguez. Okay. All right. If there are no other questions, thank you, Mr. Reynolds. And I will ask Ms. Gutierrez to repeat the motion on the table, please.
Yes, we are on 13.9 and the motion is the recommended action from staff is to adopt resolution number 2020.21001, approving an increase in developer fees and new residential and commercial industrial instruction. Motion made by Member Rodriguez and second by Member Zhang.
Thank you very much. Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
My vote is yes as well. So the motion carries and we approve resolution number 2020.21-001. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work, Ms. Dela Cruz and team. And of course, for Mr. Reynolds. I thought the report was great. So it was very, very easy to understand. So much appreciated. Okay, item 1310, resolution number 2020.21-002, interfund borrowing. And the, where's that here? The recommended action is that staff recommend the adoption of resolution number 2020.21-002, reading the wrong item, allowing temporary borrowing between funds, aka interfund borrowing. May I have a motion and a second, please, to open discussion?
I move that we approve allowing temporary borrowing between funds.
Thank you. Now
I second.
Member,
I second.
yeah, Member Nguyen seconds. Okay, and I will, Ms. Dela Cruz, I think you gave us a quick synopsis there during the public hearing. Is there anything else you'd like to add on this one?
You're
I muted myself. No, President Martinez, thank you.
Okay.
I just have one quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Ms. Dela Cruz, on the interfund borrowing, are we able to borrow across restricted funds also, or is it limited to all the other ones except for restricted funds?
We are able to borrow from restricted, for example, Fund 25, the developer fees, that's considered restricted. There's also Fund 40, which is our special reserve for capital outlay, which is also considered restricted. We can borrow from that fund as well. The only fund that we cannot borrow from is the bond fund.
And I guess approving the interfund borrowing really is just an annual formality, right? I think we do this every year, right?
Yes, it is annual, but for this year and next year, they've increased our maximum from 75% to 85%.
And Ms. Dela Cruz, I know that, you know, we talk about, I think the description you talk about that, you know, we can borrow into the fund with the assumption that there's money coming back into that particular fund so that we're able to pay back to the lending fund, if you will, right?
Correct.
And so, you know, I guess my concern would be, you know, what controls we have in place to make sure that that we are tracking and that we are truly, we'll call closing and tying each transaction and tying it off at the end of each fiscal year, because I think that's a requirement, right? It's at the end of the fiscal year you pay it off, correct? The loan?
Yes, you have to pay it back in the same year that it was
right.
borrowed, the same fiscal year. So anything that we transfer this year needs to be paid back by June 30th, 2021. So yeah, and we do have a system to monitor. And anytime that we receive our our apportionment, our funding apportionment, let's say it was deferred from February to May. As soon as we receive that, then we're going to pay back whatever we borrowed in February.
And the reason I asked the question about the process for tracking, this is, I think, prior to, again, certainly a couple of us being here, but there's the history of us borrowing from, the Russian fund, right? And it was never paid back. And here we are, right? So how do we make sure that that doesn't happen again? So I, as a board member, right? So as we're nearing the end of the school year, what would I be looking at to make sure that we in fact have tied the knot, if you will, and really closed off that borrowing process or that repayment process?
Well, during our interim reports, we usually have to provide the county with any interfund borrowing that we've done. So that could be something that we could incorporate into our reports to the board so that you see what we present to the county. And it does include monitoring and reporting what we've borrowed between funds.
Yes, I think that's really going to be really important as a condition, if you will, of this, because of these deferments and how long they're going to be going on for there. So there's going to be a lot of money movement happening. So that would be something that I would like to see, assuming the rest of the board members agree, that we would want to make sure that we're seeing that, as you're doing the interims, that you're really calling that out. Okay.
Certainly.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, if not, Ms. Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion?
Yes, President Martinez, this is 13.10 resolution number 2020.21-001, interfund borrowing. Motion made by member Zhang, second by member Nguyen.
Thank you. With that, member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Actually, the resolution number was 2020.21-002.
002. Sorry.
Sorry,
Say that again. Sorry, repeat it again.
I'll repeat the motion.
Yes.
Okay, so staff recommends the board adopt resolution number 2020.21-002, allowing temporary borrowing between funds.
Thank you.
And the motion was made by member Zhang, second by member Nguyen.
Thank you very much. Okay, and with that, member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Okay. My vote is yes as well. So the motion carries. And item resolution 2020.21-002 is approved. Thank you. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 13.11, which is the 45-day budget revision for 2020-2021. And the recommended action is that the board accept and approve the report on the revised budget as presented. I have a motion and a second to open discussion.
I move that we open for discussion.
Member Nguyen moves.
I second.
Thank you, Member Zhang. Okay. Ms. De La Cruz.
Thank you, President Martinez. So back in June, the board approved the adopted budget. And then subsequent to that, the governor signed the enacted budget on June 29th. So we are required to provide any revisions to the budget within 45 days of the signing of that budget. So I'd like to share with you, if you would allow me to share my screen. Share the Okay, are we able to see that? Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay, first I'd like to just go over some of the major changes since the adopted budget. I know at our special board meeting, I reviewed some of these items already, but just to highlight these major changes, we had received initially in the May revise a 10% projected cut in our local control funding formula, but the state budget does not have any additional cuts. However, it doesn't also provide any cost of living adjustment. In our categorical programs, there will be no additional reductions to our adult ed programs. And then the deferrals, the state did add 2 more months of deferrals in addition to the 3 that they had already projected. So they included February and March for a total of $5.8 billion in deferred payments to the district. If we do receive federal funds, then the state would rescind these deferrals. Learning loss mitigation, these are one-time funds that we will be receiving. As you may recall, in the May revise, we would not be eligible based on the proposal back in May, which was based on only concentration funding, and we were just below that 55% threshold. But since then, the state has changed the allocation to now include not just the concentration, but also the supplemental funding. They've also added additional funds based on our share of the local control funding formula. And this funding must be spent by December 30th, 2020. The ADA, they're going to keep us harmless for 2021. So our ADA is based on last year's P2 attendance period. So first, we want to review the changes in our revenues. So by not having the additional cuts, we are increasing our revenues 4.2 million. So in our adopted budget, we had projected 49 million in LCFF. But since then, because we are not getting the additional cut, we're back to the 53.2 million. And then the learning loss mitigation funds in our adopted budget, we were not projected to receive any funding, but with the state enacted budget, we now have an estimated $1,536,000 in our share of supplemental and concentration funds. And then there's also learning loss mitigation funds based on our LCFF proportionate share for $834,000, which we were not projected to receive in adopted budget. And there was special ed funding for learning loss mitigation, which we did project in the adopted budget at 1.4 million. And the allocation is slightly above that. So we have an additional 33,000 based on our allocation. So the net change to total revenues is $6.6 million increase. So on the expenditure side, we did add the impact of the 2% increase from 1920 in our certificated administrative salaries for 72,000, as well as the classified administrative salaries for 19,000. And then the benefits associated to that is about 22,000. Our liability insurance, we discovered data entry that needed to be corrected, and that decreased our expenditures 592,000. And same thing with our system monitoring. There was a double entry in that line item, so that decreased our expenditures $25,000. And on the copier leases, there was part of our file that was missing, so that increased our expenditure budget by 110,000. And then in the learning loss mitigation, so what we've done is we've added this on the expenditure side, the same amount that we received in revenues. However, we do know that some of these expenses may be offset by current expenditures. So for example, any expenditures from March through June that might be eligible for these learning loss mitigation, we can transfer over. So that will offset some of our current expenses. And that also includes not just learning loss mitigation, but you remember the ESSER fund as well, the 469,000, that will also be included as part of our expenditures. So the net change total to our expenditures is 3,531,000. So when you look at our bottom line, from adopted budget to the revised budget, the change in our revenues was an increase in 6.6 million, and our expenditures increased by 3.5 million. So the net change now, we do have a change of $3 million. We had projected a deficit of 2.6 in our adopted budget, but now we're looking at a surplus of about 470,000. And how that impacts our fund balance and reserves. Our projected beginning balance remains the same until we close the books. So at adopted budget, we had projected 6.3 million in our beginning balance. And then in our adopted budget, we did project a 2.6 million deficit, which would have left us only 3.7 million in our ending balance. And we can't count our restricted funds for our reserve for economic uncertainties, so you deduct that. So at adopted budget, we were looking at a reserve in our general fund of almost 1.3 million. And then we add our Fund 17 special reserves for economic uncertainties of 2.3 million. It left us with a $3.5 million reserve in adopted budget, which was equal to 5.5% of our total expenditures. But now we're looking at our revised budget. We have the same beginning balance, but now you add what we estimate to be our surplus. So now we have an ending balance of 6.8 million. And again, we deduct the restricted balance, and our reserve under the general fund is now almost 4.4 million. And if you add Fund 17, which is also part of our special reserves for economic uncertainties, we have total available of 6.6 million, which brings our total available reserves of 9.7%. So that's an increase of 4.2 percentage points. And remember, our minimum required is 3% of expenditures. And when we look at our multi-year projection, now instead, remember, we were looking at a $13.5 million deficit in the next 3 years. We're looking at, for this year, you know, the surplus of the 0.5 million, almost 500,000. And then the revenues in the next 2 years is going to be pretty much flat, same level, because we're assuming 0% COLA as well. But there's also the reduction in the one-time funding. So we will not be receiving the learning loss mitigation funds or the ESSER funds. So that's reflected in the next 2 years. That's why you see a reduction from 68.7 to 64.4 million. And then in the expenditures, we are still assuming the increases in our retirement rates for our salaries and benefit costs, and plus step and column increases and the same assumptions as in the adopted budget. So when you go all the way down, you're looking at our fund balance and how that impacts our fund balance. We are able to maintain reserve in 21-22 of 10.8% and 9.2% in 22-23. And just as a reminder, I always like to put this here because the next reporting period will be our year-end actuals, which will be presented in September. That will give you our actual balances for the 2019-20 fiscal year. And then we have our first interim report in December. And at this point, I'd like to open it up for discussion or comments or any questions.
Thank you, Ms. De La Cruz. President Martinez, you mind if I just chime in?
Absolutely, no, and I apologize for not asking you to speak on this first, so go ahead.
No problem. I just want to, well, first of all, I just want to appreciate Ms. De La Cruz for how well she's tracking this, and also both herself and the decisions of the board, which have led us to a place where, thanks to the one-time funds, where it's definitely good news. And at the same time, I do want to caution us, as you can see in those out years, when we no longer have those one-time funds, we are still dealing with a structural deficit. And so while I think this is really, really positive, I also want to make sure that we don't that we don't take our foot off the gas, and we don't fail to make the hard decisions that we really need to make now to be fiscally responsible in these out years.
Thank you for that. I actually had a question related to that, but I will first ask my fellow board members, are there any questions for Ms. De La Cruz or Superintendent Triplett? I do have a question, Ms. De La Cruz, if you can go back to that page you were on, I think page 18, or the out years, this one here, no, the outer years. So what I wanted to just clarify was these expenditures already assume the decisions or the direction we'd already given, right? Which is, this does already assume the consolidations / closure of at least a couple of schools. Is that what's included in this rate of expenditure?
Yes, that is correct. We had passed a resolution that included a reduction of $1 million based on the assumption that we would be consolidating schools. So yes, that is incorporated in the expenditures.
So, and so Superintendent Triplett, yes, I think sometimes it's, our eyes get starry when we see these one-time funds, right? But we quickly kind of come back to our reality that that assumption has been built in. So that's, that's something that needs to be delivered. Otherwise, that number gets really, really unattractive very quickly, right? So thank you for that clarification. Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments for Ms. De La Cruz or Superintendent Triplett? Okay.
I would just like to thank Ms. De La Cruz for her really great presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, I'll ask Ms. Gutierrez to repeat the motion on the table, please.
One second. The staff recommends the board accept and approve the report on the revised budget as presented. Motion made by Member Nguyen and second by Member Zhang.
Thank you very much. Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Rodriguez?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So motion passes, carries. And thank you very much, Ms. De La Cruz and Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you.
Item 13.12, this is the repair of the Newark Memorial swimming pool filtration system, and the recommended action is that the board approve the proposal from NOR Systems to issue a purchase order for the repair and replacement of the contract of the, I'm sorry, replacement of the contract, replacement of the Newark Memorial High School pool filtration system. Sorry, may I have a motion and a second to open discussion?
I move that we approve the contract.
Second.
Thank you. It's a proposal, right? It's not a contract. Sorry.
I move that we approve the proposal.
Thank you. And who seconded? Was that Ms. Member Rodriguez? Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
whatever you want.
thank you. And Superintendent Triplett?
Yeah, I'll just say, as a avid swimmer myself, it's been really challenging not to be able to get into the pool during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I did have the pleasure of going over and seeing the pool at the high school, and that made it even more painful that I couldn't be jumping in at this point. But I did promise myself I would not jump in until the kids had been able to come back and be swimming. But I do understand that this pool, what I understand is that this pool is really like a shining light, both for the school and for the whole city, and that it's used not just by the students at the high school, but it's used almost constantly when we're not in the in shelter in place. By organizations, community, and such. And it's a gorgeous pool. And it is in need of some repair. And so I'd strongly recommend that that this happen, just because of we do want to maintain such an amazing facility. And Ms. De La Cruz, did you want to add anything to that?
Okay. No, just I would also like to advocate for approving this proposal so that we can issue a purchase order to approve it. It's currently not working. The filtration system is broken. So we're just keeping it at a very low maintenance right now, just so it doesn't go bad. But this is really necessary.
We've been very fortunate over the years, from Mr. Crocker to Mr. Crosby and everybody involved in swim, and really taking care of that pool and making sure that it is a jewel to the community, and whatever we can do to, make sure that it's working at its optimist would be great.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Rodriguez. Any comments from Member Zhang, Member Nguyen, or questions? Yeah, I think, absolutely. We agree, that I love to see when they have their meets and I see all the postings from all the other schools coming here. It's something we really need to. I think this is the first step. I know last year we heard some reports from staff around, there's many pieces or items, if you will, in that particular part of the facility that need repair. So let's start with this one. So I think, thank you for bringing this forward. Ms. Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion on the table?
Yes, President Martinez, the recommendation, staff recommends the board approve the proposal from North Systems Inc. to issue a purchase order for the repair and replacement of Newark Memorial High School pool filtration system. Motion made by Member Nguyen, second by Member Rodriguez.
Thank you so much. Member Rodriguez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Nguyen?
Yes, and I remember when that pool was built because I was around then.
Just a couple of years ago.
Oh yes, just.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
My vote is yes as well. So the motion passes unanimously. So let's go ahead. Let's go fix that filtration system. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the last item on new business is 13.13, the 2019 cabinet salary schedule. Staff, the recommended action is Discussion and action on proposed retroactive 2019-2020 salary schedule for the chief business official. Okay, may I have a motion in a second?
I move that we approve the salary schedule for our CBO.
Thank you.
Second,
Okay, Member Zhang moves, Member Rodriguez seconds. Do we have any questions for Superintendent Triplett? Any comments? I have one, and I think it's something that we just need to clarify. Our CBO is on contract, and I'll ask Member Rodriguez to also help provide some guidance here. So when we have a contract and there's an increase to the pay, are we supposed to be representing the contract at the time as well? Because this is a salary schedule, so this I think what is a little bit off, because we should probably be speaking about a contract, not a salary schedule, correct? So just trying to get some clarity.
my understanding would be it's a contract and, you know, we need to treat it as such. Because the contract is with the board. But I don't know if that means that we can't, you know, vote on this. But you can get clarity from Mr. Dennis, but, you know, it's my understanding it's a contract.
Right. And I apologize for not asking this in advance, because I think I just want to make sure that there's that link, right? And maybe it could have been as simple as attaching the contract for reference. Because, you know, the background is that the contract does tie salary increases to those received by the NUMA employees. So I think that's not the question. It's more of just the process. And either Superintendent Triplett or Ms. Dela Cruz.
I can speak to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly since it's Ms. Dela Cruz's, you know, it's directly related to her. I think it's more appropriate that I speak to it.
I agree.
Yeah, I will say it is a little unusual, and that there is a salary schedule as well as an independent contract, and I think that was something that has existed since before Ms. Dela Cruz was actually in the position. So it's really that's more like a process thing. But the current contract does articulate the need for a salary increase when another bargaining unit has received one. And so even though it's a little odd to have these two documents that usually there's a contract or a salary scale or schedule, not both together, but nonetheless, it does seem to be written into the contract as such. And so that's why we're bringing this forward and recommending that it be approved.
So I think agree. And I think that it's not a question of, you know, because I think that the contract is clear. So just procedurally, you know, I think that's why I was asking the question of a Member Rodriguez, just because I personally am not as sure. I know typically when a contract employee's salary is going to be modified, that contract needs to be brought forward with that modification to the salary. Without any prior history, I would like, I'm okay. You know, I think proceeding with the fact, because we've got these two different things, I think we need to, I would like us to go back and make sure we get the appropriate language. And if we need to bring back the contract to make it to align all of this, then we may have to do that. And I'm being transparent because I want to make sure that we fix that process going forward, so that it's always for a contracted employee. If the expectation is to see the contract, we should be bringing it forward with a modification. Is that a fit? So I'm saying let's move forward with the action, the recommended action as is. But again, I would like this for us to follow up on this item with legal on how we might proceed going forward. Okay. And if no other questions or comments. Okay, so Ms. Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion?
Staff recommends, okay, sorry. Staff recommends that the proposed retroactive 1920 salary schedule for chief business official. Motion made by Member Zhang and second by Member Rodriguez.
Okay, very good. Member Rodriguez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
My vote is yes as well. Thank you, Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we move to item 14.1, which is under consent agenda personnel report. Staff recommends that the board approve the personnel report as presented. May I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Member Rodriguez moves.
Okay.
I'll second.
Member Nguyen seconds. Okay, so this is, I will ask for a vote on this. I'm sorry. All right, may I have a vote? Member Rodriguez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries and we approve the personnel report as presented. Okay, next, section 15 is quite a bit on non-personnel items under consent agenda. 15.1 donations report, 15.2 resolution 2020.21-003 signature card board members. How many, let's see how many of these. I don't know that I need to read all of these. So let's do these. The recommended action would be that board approve items 15.1 through 15.25. May I have a motion and a second?
I move that we approve item 15.1 to 15.25.
Very good. May I have a second?
I'll second, but normally we ask if anybody wants to pull any of the items. So if that's been asked, I apologize.
No, I was actually going to just ask. Typically, I mean, so typically we would ask for some if there's any comments, right? Ideally for consent agenda, right? They're on consent and there's not a whole lot of discussion unless there is a pulled item. So I'll ask for the second and then I'll ask the question if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so who made the motion? I'm sorry. Member
Zhang.
Member Zhang, and you seconded? Member Nguyen? Sorry, I
No,
just want to
Member Rodriguez.
Member Rodriguez, okay. So are there any items that that would want, the motion is to approve all 25 items. Are there any items that want to, any of these items anybody wants to pull for discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will ask for a vote. Member Rodriguez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes.
Member Zhang?
Yes.
Okay. And my vote is yes as well. So the motion carries and consent agenda items are approved. Okay. And we move to item 16, which is Board of Education Committee reports. Okay. Ms. Gutierrez has listed the active ad hoc committees. Any updates, Member Rodriguez, on Mission Valley ROP?
No, we're gonna have a meeting next week, but no updates other than the, well, there is an update. Because the RP services 3 school districts, and each one of them opens at a separate time. So there's got to be a lot of flexibility when it comes to RP, and they do an excellent job of it.
Thank you. Anything on SELPA? I know that they were looking to schedule meetings, but is there anything specifically that you'd like to update us on?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. And as we go through, I know for city liaison, I think there was already an update given. Is there anything new? Or okay. Yeah, the next couple, I don't think there are, but I'll ask. East Bay Induction Audit Committee. School Consolidation Committee, I will ask Superintendent Triplett for a quick update on this one.
Sure. So thank you, President Martinez. So we did want to just let the community and the board know that we have been able to hire a facilitator from school services who will be assisting us with the with this committee. I'm really excited. It sounds like this person in this organization has a lot of experience helping with these type of situations, and this is clearly a committee that's going to have to make some really hard recommendations and really dig really deep into data and analyze the situation across the whole district. So I'm pleased to say that we have scheduled our first meeting of this committee. And it's a committee of 15 members of many different stakeholders, as I'm sure you're aware. It'll be the August 27th. I think the invite has already gone out to the committee members, and it'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. And then our plan is to have committee meetings every other Thursday on the off week of the board meeting. So the second and fourth Thursdays, there'll be a series of 8 meetings, and then the goal is that committee will be ready to make a recommendation after really looking at data and creating a criteria for a decision. They'll make a recommendation to the board around school consolidations. And so we're hoping that will be complete by the end of December.
Okay. Very good. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Communication Committee, Governance Handbook. Obviously, the only thing on this is that we have quite a bit of work to do, Member Zhang. We are looking to try to get some a study session for board and staff in the next couple of months. I know we have a lot going on, so I will say by September, maybe early October, ideally, just so we can go ahead and start making some of the required modifications. So more to come on that as we look to schedule that. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, board education announcements, Board of Education announcements, request, debrief, discussion. Member Rodriguez, we'll start with you. Are there any requests or announcements you'd like to make?
No, there is one with the beginning of school, this year being so different, but just maybe keeping us updated. I don't know if doing staff development, with the balls, as far as getting the board, it's a little different naturally, but just make sure and not saying that superintendent is not going to update it, but the more information we have on the opening of school and how it's going, the better off we are, in my opinion. That's it.
Thank you. Member Nguyen?
Thank you, President Martinez. I would just like to let everyone know that actually some of the classes are already starting at the junior high. The leadership class started this week with a sort of like a team building the last 3 days. So I just wanted to give Mr. Whitaker at the junior high a shout out and say congratulations on the start of the school year and already getting the kids in leadership and yearbook started and off to a good start. And also, I just wanted to remind everyone that during this time, we haven't been through this whole process before, and it is a transition and it is a learning process for many of us. And that just to remind everyone to extend additional compassion and empathy for everyone that is, for families, and also for our educators, our teachers, and our staff here. Everyone is working really hard and is trying to do their best. And yes, sometimes things do fall in the cracks, and we just have to remember that we have to come together as a community and work collectively as a whole in order to succeed together and to make things wonderful for all of our kids here in Newark. And it is hard sometimes to forget that, we tend to put ourselves first, but let's try and remember to put others first and think of all different perspectives and not just our own as we move forward and work together in solving this issue and hopefully building a wonderful school year for the students. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Member Zhang?
So I want to commend two of my fellow board members who are full-time professionals, who are moms, who need to take care of their kids, who still serve on the school board in the middle of a pandemic. Particular President Martinez, being a single mom of 2 kids, serving on the board, that's a hard enough thing to do. I think doing all of these in the middle of a pandemic is even harder. So I commend 2 of my fellow board members. And for the greater community, this is tough time for everybody, and things can get worse before it gets better. The pandemic might very well last longer, far longer than we expected, but we are a resilient community. We will get through this together, and I believe we'll emerge stronger than before. Stay strong and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Zhang, for your nice comments about me and just your general comments. Thank you very much. Member, when you'd invited or sent a link out regarding this a webinar that UCSF Children's shared a couple of days ago, and there was, I can't remember the verbiage that they had, but it's not about the, we'll call it the group of families that really want their kids in school, and then there's the other group. They had labels for it, and all the kids and all the other families who that don't want them in school, and we tend to in really trying times we tend to get into these extremes, right? And I thank you for their words, because they really talked about empathy and compassion for each other, for ourselves as well. We tend to put as parents, as families, so much pressure on ourselves, but most importantly for we'll call the team. I've heard some really good and positive remarks from our parents and families about the work, and also some that are not so nice, right? And what I can say is, in the seat that we are lucky enough to have, we're able to see a lot of the work that does happen. And I do ask you to be patient. This is unprecedented, right? We don't have a playbook for this. So in the spirit of making sure we're being collaborative and that we are getting people's voices, of course, we're going to go slower, right? Of course, we're going to go slower, and that's okay. Right. And that's okay if we remember that our kids are at the center of that discussion. So I ask you for patience and kindness to for the broader team. I know that you know, all of us, when we think about ourselves and our needs, it's really hard to keep that perspective. And please reach out if you need support, because sometimes some of the not so nice comments come because we're nervous, we're scared about how, you know, what's coming in front of us. So please, please, please reach out to the team. I know Superintendent Triplett is working diligently with Ms. Gutierrez and the rest of team to really have a cleaner path of communication so that we can close the loop on questions. So I really want to commend you for that, Dr. Triplett. I've seen it. And I know we're getting better every day. So sorry for being long-winded, but this is such a critical time, and it really it's hard to hear some of the criticisms. You know, it's everybody's prerogative to do that, but please remember that people are working really, really hard here. So thank you so much. And with that, I'll hand it to you. Oh.
Sorry, one last comment because I forgot. Yes, their UCSF, Benioff, and Oakland Children's Hospital, they have a 3-part webinar in terms of for what it, you know, the infection rates on COVID, and then also in particular in regards to reopening schools safely, and also how we can help. The 3rd part is going to be on distance learning and how we can help our children through that path with mental health in mind. So for registered, if you register, they'll send you a link to the recording. So hopefully once I get the recording, maybe we can post them on the school's website or the district's website, and then for the community to view. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. And with that, Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Martinez, and thank you all for your words. I think they're well. First of all, I just really appreciate them, but then also I think it's always a good reminder for all of us that during these really unusually challenging times, that we gotta stick together, and then we got to keep our eyes on the prize, which is doing what's right for kids and for families. But I want to make a personal commitment, and also a commitment on the part of the district, that we do need to continue to get better in communication, and we will keep getting better at it. And then lastly, just a couple announcements. One, I hadn't had a chance to share it before, and then Ms. Saavedra reminded me. We're excited. Tomorrow, we will have our new teacher orientation. And so that's all new teachers to the district. And so we're really excited to welcome them in. We think we have a fantastic bunch of new teachers to join our fantastic veteran teachers. So really delighted about that. And then the other thing I wanted to just say how much I enjoyed this week. I had an opportunity, was invited to go to Schilling Elementary and experience just an incredible display of giving and caring and warmth on the part of Tri-City volunteers, Nissan Premier, and our own child nutrition. There was a big giveaway of supplies, food, meals. I think there was over 150 cars backed up all the way up the street. And it was just really wonderful to see. So I think that is that is a representation of the kind of compassion and care that we all need to be reminding ourselves of, and sticking with each other on. And that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, and with that, we get to item 18, which is adjournment. May I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I second gladly.
Member Nguyen moves, Member Rodriguez seconds, and Member Rodriguez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Member Nguyen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thinking about it. Member Zhang?
Yes.
My vote is yes as well. So thank you, everybody. I know it's a heavy meeting, lots to cover, but meeting is adjourned at 9:50 p.m. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.